We've come a long way in the evolution of video games. One constant, however, is that for many of us, video games can, and often are, better when we can play them with others. With the advent of online play and consoles that can allow multiplayer experiences over the internet, the days of getting a bunch of friends over for a night of gaming fun seem to be numbered as more of us take our game gatherings to the internet. With more and more of us putting our personal information out online, the risk of someone hacking and making off with all of your info keeps growing. And it ended up finally happening a few days before Easter. An unidentified person or group hacked into Sony's servers and began the largest data theft in history, crippling the PlayStation Network for a month and a half. What caused it? What can we do to prevent this from happening again? What will be the fallout? Here are our thoughts on the great PlayStation Network outage of 2011 right here on Downloadable Content. Welcome, friends, Romans, countrymen. This is Downloadable Content. I'm Brian, and we are joined today by Ron.
Hello, everyone.
Danielle.
Hello.
Ryan.
Hello.
Joshy.
Hello.
Live from the other side of the pond.
You know, this internet thing, it works quite well.
It does. It really does. It's... when it works.
Well, yeah.
When it doesn't work, it's just out and out maddening. As was the case for 100 million PlayStation subscribers.
You know, people say, I think the actual number was like 77 million, but PlayStation accounts are free, and I have like 4 of them.
Why do you need 4 of them?
Well...
because you forgot the password for some of them.
I don't know how to log into 3 of them, so... Success.
Congratulations. I forgot my password.
Really, some people do make more accounts because you can like access the American store and the Japanese store, or your brother will have an account. Whereas on the Xbox, because you have to pay for it, you only have 1 account.
And that makes the difference between Microsoft and Sony. Microsoft, you have to pay for the privilege. Sony will let anyone in.
But what that means is that the 77, quote, million people attacked probably is a much smaller number.
That's also very likely. Well,
anyway.
I have 1 account. I don't have 4. But for me, it was just a mild inconvenience. But for many others, it was way bigger than that. So... before we begin our discussion, just want to remind everyone that Downloadable Content is on both Facebook and Twitter.
Never!
Taking advantage of the internet.
You're becoming an internet whore.
Well, hungry for fame. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/downloadablecontent, and you can also find us on Twitter at DLContent. Find us, like us, friend us, talk to us. We love the feedback.
We're so lonely.
I know.
I smell a hint of desperation here.
No, that's the smell of success.
Sure.
Yeah,
That's what they're calling it these days?
Yes, that's exactly what we're calling it. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will dive right into this discussion. The PlayStation Network got hacked at probably one of the worst possible times. It was the week before Easter Sunday, when 3 major multiplayer games were due out that week. Mortal Kombat, Portal 2, I believe.
You're correct.
I think the other was a SOCOM game?
SOCOM 4 was out the same day.
So 3 major games with huge multiplayer possibilities, and the network goes down right when those games were released, pissing off everybody.
What the hell? We have to go outside now? No!
What is this thing called sunlight?
Yeah, what is this? That's not sun. That's a heat lamp.
It was also a big rub in the face of like the whole Steam integration into Portal 2.
Really? I didn't know.
Because if you buy Portal 2 on PS3, you're supposed to be able to get the Mac and PC version free. But to confirm that and get your free download on Steam, you had to connect to the PlayStation Network, which wasn't working.
Yeah.
You could also play co-op with PC players, which also didn't work.
Well, yeah, bravo.
And that was one of the main draws PlayStation had for people coming over to play Portal 2 on the PS3 was like you could play with your friends on the PC. And I've had friends who picked up Portal 2 for the PS3, got home from their work, and they're like, "Oh, I'm tired. I'm just gonna install it tomorrow and get the update and all that stuff." And yeah, wah, 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 wah.
Yeah, one of those deals. I mean, I noticed something was going on because I bought Mortal Kombat when I pre-ordered it, so I got it at launch. So it was a couple of days before the network went down. But I noticed something was going on because every time I turned on my PS3, I have an automatic sign-in to the PlayStation Network. I was getting these error messages, and I'm like, okay, well, I was still able to get in, put in a combat code, and get some free downloadable content for pre-ordering the game. But and I got to experience multiplayer for about 5 minutes. And it was hacked somewhere between April 17th and 19th. It finally went down April 20th with a message from Sony saying, "Oh, we'll be back up and running in a day or two."
Our bad. Sorry.
So I think what was actually happening before that, when you were getting the error messages, is before they got hacked and realized and took it down themselves, they were actually being DDoSed at the same time, which is why the network was up and down.
Oh, denial of service.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's possible, because, I mean, I kept getting these error messages, but I was still able to get into the PlayStation Network. So,
yeah.
At the time, no harm, no foul. I'm just like, okay, well, Sony's being stupid, and, we move on. But, yes, it went down, and Sony went up, and they said, well, we'll be back up in a day or two. Don't worry. Because people were like, we just bought these games, it's so common, and Portal and Mortal Kombat, we can't do anything!
We'll be back a couple days. Meanwhile, a month and a half later.
Yeah, 2 days became a month and a half. That's how long it took. But, the thing that actually really started, I think, to piss people off the most was the total lack of information coming from Sony.
Yeah.
As it became...
Oh yeah, they're just not releasing anything until like almost 3-4 weeks after the incident.
Well, not quite that long, but once it became more apparent that the PlayStation Network was going to be down for a measurable period of time, it took Sony almost 6-7 days to finally come out and say, yeah, we were hacked, and possible personal identification info were stolen. But to the rest of you, go about your business.
And you totally know that the day they took the network down was when they found out shit had been stolen. And they spent a week basically going, fuck, what do we do?
They spent a week going like, what are we going to say to people?
And
because there's no way we're going to be able to get this back.
Yeah, not to
And
mention...
there's no way a PR person can spin it well.
Ron?
No, they should have just came out and said, yeah.
Okay.
Your information got stolen.
Now you can go, Ron.
Yeah. And one of the things, too, that I read was that when they realized personal information got stolen, they had 48 hours to inform, like...
Law enforcement?
Law enforcement to basically say, yeah, we got hacked, and we need you guys to help us tell people. They're required by law to do that, and if they didn't do it, I don't know if anyone found out or not. Assuming they didn't tell law enforcement until a week afterwards, they're liable for lawsuits and God knows what other legal reprimands you can enforce upon Sony.
Yeah, it was not very, very pretty. I mean, they were kind of taking the Toyota way of PR.
You mean brakes don't work?
It was... and there was a lot of people really lodging complaints saying, why the hell did it take you so long? And to tell us a week after the network went down. Why'd you wait a week? In that time, these hackers who have made off with personal identification and possible credit card numbers, non-encrypted, by the way, and
thanks for that little tidbit of information, Sony.
Yeah. So this is I'm going to read to you now the official post from Sony.
Remember, this took them a week to write.
There's a difference in timing between when we identified there was an intrusion and when we learned of consumers' data being compromised. We learned there was an intrusion April 19th and subsequently shut the services down. We then brought in outside experts to help us learn how the intrusion occurred and to conduct an investigation to determine the nature and scope of the incident. It was necessary to conduct several days of forensic analysis, and it took our experts until yesterday to understand the scope of the breach. We then shared that information with our consumers and announced it publicly this afternoon. Still, and that's what they said. Still, they found out they got hacked April 19th. It took them a week. They should have notified, the moment they realized that they were hacked, which was April 19th, they should have said, guys, we've been hacked, watch your bank statements.
Well, at that point, they probably didn't know what had been hacked. Something had been hacked. Maybe our website had been hacked.
Well, I just love the way that it was an external intrusion. That was their official wording.
That's a great line.
An external intrusion. Well, getting a colonoscopy is an external intrusion. What do you mean by external intrusion? What are you, the government? What's with this fluffy PR language?
Rape jokes.
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk about in a minute all the other stuff that went wrong and whether or not it was their fault, but this is undeniably the bit Sony got completely wrong, is they waited a week to tell people shit got hacked.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, they should have came out with a statement the day it happened.
I would have been, felt a little better about it if they said immediately, we were hacked, we know we were hacked, we don't exactly know what was taken, but watch your bank statements. Yeah,
I mean, to put this into contrast, there's a website called LastPass, which recently, not long after this, suspected that something fishy had gone down on their servers and felt they may have been compromised. Within hours, they weren't sure, and they confirmed afterwards that nothing had happened. Within hours, they alerted everybody, told everyone to change their passwords. I mean, this is just common sense. If you think something's bad has happened, don't wait until you actually know.
No, I think Sony, everybody at Sony was just like, maybe the problem will go away by itself if we don't do anything. That's what I think was happening over there.
Well, I mean, it seems like the most likely, what might have happened, because waiting a whole week, it's bullshitting it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they were thinking. And on top of all that, the updates coming from the official PlayStation blog were few and far between. Sometimes we heard nothing for days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, people who have credit card information on file with Sony, they're going, what the hell?
I certainly regret giving them my information.
I was kind of lucky.
Yeah.
I was kind of lucky in this regard because the information of my card that Sony had on file was outdated, because right before the network went down, I had just gotten a replacement bank card. And I never bothered to update it with Sony. So,
well, aren't you special?
Like I said, I got lucky because, if the hacker or hackers made off with card information, well, they have an outdated card, so good luck.
Yeah, but for the rest of us...
Yeah, there's a lot of things you can get off of a credit card number. If you are a hacker and you know what you're doing, you not only can use that for illegal purchases and stuff like that, but you can get someone's personal information, you can get a hold of their social security number, and if someone gets hold of that, well, you're screwed 8 ways to Sunday.
what we find out, what we find out was that to this point there have been no verified reports of somebody getting their bank account hacked, somebody taking out unauthorized purchases. It hasn't been reported. Sony or none of the major credit card companies have reported to Sony that there's been this mass, identity theft or anything like that. But still, those hackers have your personal. They have your address, your birthday.
Well, basically, I think we can probably presume, unless they're sitting on it for a very long time, there's been no mass money taken, so they probably, and again, this is still probably, didn't get credit card details, but they certainly, as you said, got names and addresses. And the worst stuff is like your date of birth and answers to security questions. These are, and passwords, of course, which weren't encrypted, for fuck's sake.
Why, Sony?
For some dumbass reason. What, were they under budget in that department? They
But
just
what this-
it'll be fine. We'll never get hacked.
But what this means is they've got your email address and password, which means they can go to your email account if you use the same password and log into it. If they can't get into it, they can use security questions and date of birth to get into it. And from that, they can start changing passwords on all your shit.
Not to mention, too, people usually only use one. Maybe most people that I know of only use like one or two passwords now. For, I think, our generation and onward, a lot of people are going to start using 3, 4, 5, 6 different passwords for whatever they do.
People are going to hack now with all the different like security risks that are going on.
Yeah.
It's just a lot safer to do that way. The problem is remembering all these freaking passwords.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why some people just go with one or maybe two.
Well, for clarification, passwords to get into the PlayStation Network were not encrypted. Credit card data was.
Thank you.
That's a good thing.
Credit card data was encrypted, but Sony admitted that other user information was not. So,
but this is coming from a company who didn't encrypt passwords. So the question is, what type of encryption did they use? There are some really, really easy encryptions that they could hack.
Yeah, it was just, and just from that fact alone, it was reported on the Daily Telegraph. They reported that if the provider stores passwords unencrypted, then it's very easy for somebody else, not just an external hacker, but even members of staff or contractors working on Sony's site, to get access and discover these passwords, potentially using them for nefarious means.
I mean, there's no excuse in this day and age why they weren't encrypted. Being a programmer myself, I can tell you it's not trivial. It's trivial, to encrypt passwords. It's not a difficult thing to do. They just couldn't be asked.
That's
Can't be bothered.
yeah, it's like,
We'll do that tomorrow.
I feel so much better now.
Yeah.
Motivator.
Not just the fact that information was stolen, but because the PlayStation Network was taken down and was so crippled, a lot of the external programs that are on people's PS3s or PSPs were rendered useless. You couldn't play. I'm taking a look now. While remaining offline, the PlayStation 3 was unable to play certain Capcom titles that were downloaded from the store. Streaming video providers like Hulu, Vudu, Love Film. Never heard that one.
That's a British Netflix.
Okay, and I know here in the States, MLB TV was totally.
Which you were insanely pissed about.
I couldn't watch the Red Sox on my. Like I said, I could watch it on my computer, but still, it's the principle of the thing. Where there was also a lot of widespread reports about Netflix being down, but some people did claim to get through.
Yeah. Apparently, if you were... I don't obviously have a Netflix subscription, being not in America, but apparently the app is hard coded, so it tries to log you into PSN when you try to use it, but there's no reason for it to require PSN as Netflix has its own account. And so if you just denied the login box a few times, it would eventually go through.
Yeah, I heard that if you wanted Netflix to work on your PS3, you had to practically beat it into submission. It was stubborn.
Offered a sacrificial lamb or maybe some chicken.
No,
It was Easter.
Goat.
I mean, as I said earlier, I mean, I didn't really stand to lose too much from the PlayStation Network out of. So for me, it was just a mild inconvenience, but still, the biggest thing that pissed me off was just how badly Sony bungled their PR.
They didn't have PR, as far as I'm concerned.
It's a lack thereof.
And how many hours did it take for like the major like tech sites to explain how stupid and how effed up Sony did in bungling this up? And Penny Arcade's got this short that says it only does
Penny Arcade
03
Penny Arcade
02,
ran with it. Penny Arcade ran with it, and I know the exact comic you're talking about. We've all seen the PlayStation 3 commercials where at the end you see it only does everything.
They must be really regretting that now.
Yeah, we've all seen those commercials. Correct?
It even hacks. It even hacks your personal information.
We've all seen those cartoons. Yeah. Commercials.
Those commercials.
Sony's never been known to be, delicate with their commercials and their advertising.
Yeah, I mean, just the commercials alone were just, total braggart commercials. Like, yeah, we have an awesome fucking system that, you don't need anything else. This system will do anything. It'll cook your breakfast. It'll perform fellatio. It'll give you a head,
And did we mention it's awesome?
Oh, yeah.
What I love was that while this was happening, they were still playing those freaking commercials.
Yeah, they were, and I'm looking at the Penny,
especially like the SOCOM commercial. They kept playing nonstop.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Penny Arcade comic now, and it looks like one of those PlayStation commercials. You have a gamer saying, "Dear PlayStation, how come I can't play any of my games online?" And then they cut to a panel of Kevin Butler, who is described as the VP of fucking bullshit, and
who went mysteriously quiet on Twitter through the entire film.
Yes, he did. He said online, more like yawnline. Single players where the real action is. Why play with boring weirdo losers where you could just play with yourself? I mean, and then the last panel is it only does 807.10 So.
Can we just go back to a point you skipped over a minute ago? There's a Capcom game which is an offline game but didn't work while PSN was down.
Yeah, I don't know what the game was. I mean,
that's insane. That my game, if my console can't get online, isn't going to work. I mean, if stuff like this happens again, or I don't know, the internet stops working. Why should the game stop working?
It may be a case of it has like an online scoring system, and if you say like Ikaruga, you have like your online scoreboard, you can compete against your other friends and try and get a high score. It may be something similar to that where you compete to get a high score, and it goes up on the board against like people in the US or people in the UK or worldwide.
Right, but many games have something like that, and they can either hold the score until they connect, like your Xbox achievements do, or it could just not count to the scoreboard if you're not connected.
And the fact that you were required to log into the PSN to play this offline game. Wow.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, ouch.
I'm trying to find out what games they were. I don't recall.
And of course, there's the other point that you mentioning the adverts. During this month and a half downtime, there were stores selling consoles and games where it says on the box it can connect to this PSN. There are probably non-enthusiasts who don't follow the blogs and that that were buying consoles, taking them home, it wasn't working, and they're taking it back and saying, this thing's broken.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past consumers.
Okay, I found out a couple of games. I'm looking at Kotaku right now, in which
A quality news source.
the headline says it only does offline, and Capcom confirmed with Kotaku that Bionic Commando Rearmed 2 and the Final Fight / Magic Sword game pack are unplayable without an online connection. The issue is caused by Capcom's use of a particular form of copy protection.
Oh, our favorite thing.
So Capcom worried about pirating and DRM. So they put a form of DRM on it, which require. Oh, that's
so it was required to phone home to confirm you had purchased the game, which is complete bullshit.
Now it makes sense. Okay, that is bullshit. That is total and utter bullshit.
That is
Unbelievable.
complete bullshit. Bullshit, and bullshit.
I mean, forgetting this whole circumstance, one day, let's say when the PS4 or the PS5 is out,
1,000.
let's say, for example, this has happened to the Xbox, the original one recently. PSN stops working on the PS3. Well, I can still play my NES. I can still play Super Mario Brothers. Bionic Commando 2 will not work because PlayStation Network is gone.
The moral of the story here: play more Nintendo games.
Exactly.
Oh, it was great because every time Sony put out a blog update, with their cryptic one-liners, like they put up a blog update that simply just said nothing new to report. They put up a post saying nothing new is going on, and there were pages of angry vitriol.
What's funny about their blog is that after a while, people realized that the blog used PSN to log in, and when people's cookies expired, they could no longer post on the blog.
I didn't know that. But people were like, that's it. I'm never using Sony again. I'm going to Microsoft. I'm buying an Xbox. And
just for shits and giggles, I went over to Craigslist during this outage, just looking at people selling PS3s, and like I saw PS3s as low as $50 with games included.
Wow.
To get a PS3, and I'm not talking like really old ones. I'm talking like
brand new ones.
Yeah, like brand new ones.
It was just hysterical, just seeing how many angry gamers were like, okay, well, you're good. Okay, for me, it wasn't really much of a choice. Like, okay, PlayStation Network outage or Red Ring of Death.
Having had a Red Ring of Death, that was probably worse.
Yeah.
Because instead of
that's
losing
fair.
online, instead of just losing online play, you lose your entire system.
Yeah, it was just, oh my god. And meanwhile, I'm sure Microsoft and Nintendo were both looking at this PSN outage going, this is beautiful!
Well, no, Nintendo
they were
was wondering what an online network was.
Yeah, and Microsoft was going,
Well, did you notice that this was during like the first week before they announced anything? Microsoft, when people didn't realize this was going to happen for a month and a half, Microsoft actually had a free weekend on Xbox Live.
Yep, I noticed that. It's like, double your XP on Call of Duty.
yeah.
Just rubbing it in Sony's face. Oh yeah, I saw that.
That was kind of funny. I got a good laugh out of that.
So, I know that, all of us obviously experienced, the outage in one form or another. What's, if anything, I'll start with you, Joshi, did it really, mess up your whole social standing like it did for some of these people, it seemed?
Well, it broke my heart, obviously. I felt betrayed, personally. But, no, in fact, I've only had a PS3 since Christmas, and the only game it really affected me with was Portal 2 and not getting to play co-op. but I easily solved that by doing this revolutionary thing and having a person round your house. I don't know if you've heard of it. But except for that, I don't play any PS3 games online, so this didn't actually affect me at all.
All right, Ryan.
Well, I don't. The only thing that affected me was that you had just given me your name, your PlayStation name, like a couple days before the outage, and I was a little pissed at that I couldn't play Marvel vs. Capcom 3 with you.
Yeah. But now we
online.
can.
Well, now we can, and you bought me Mortal Kombat for my birthday.
Yes.
So now we can play that online.
Yes.
Other than that, it really didn't affect me too much.
Danielle.
Well, other than, being extremely paranoid about my credit cards now, trying to keep track of my personal information, I only have a PSP, but it did kind of piss me off, trying to look for updates or any kind of information and kind of not getting anything.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand. I mean, I had an old card on them on file, so I mean, it didn't really bother me. But for people who did have valid, active card information with Sony, I could certainly understand the panic.
Yeah, and I mean, it was starting to get on my nerves because they would keep telling you to try to go and reset your password and change your information and that kind of thing, but it kind of would not let me log in or even try to reset it every few times.
Because, remember, it only does that error message.
Yeah.
I think certainly, okay, some people didn't get to play more online and some people couldn't play Portal 2, but really, it's the credit card. I know personally, I looked at my statement every day for a couple of weeks.
Same
and
here.
Definitely, if that information had really got out into the wild and there had been reports of fraud on cards, then Sony would probably be in much more trouble than they are now, which is just some people were a little bit inconvenienced.
Yeah, I mean, I started a bit of a firestorm on Facebook because I saw so many people whining and crying about the outage, and I'm like, yeah, I'm like, and I started a bit of an argument because I got people replying back. I said, this is just a minor inconvenience, and I said, why are you all crying? It's just a video game system, and I don't want my bank account being hacked. I said, I understand that.
It's like they just lost someone really close to them.
But I said, if you're really anal about your card information, do you know how easy it is just to go to the bank and say, I need a new card?
Yeah.
And you just walk or call your...
But you're also talking about all the basement dwellers out there.
Still!
What is this outside?
How are they going to go without their mom driving them?
It's still 5 minutes! You could go to your bank or call them up and say, listen, my bank card might have been... My information might have been compromised. Can you send me a new card? Done.
So
You're
after
assuming
this,
that they have human contact every day.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm giving humanity more credit than they're actually worth.
So after this, how many people are going to give Sony a card in the future, and how many people are going to buy those prepaid cards?
Oh, I certainly will now start buying those prepaid cards.
That sounded like a good idea now, yeah.
So I'm going, and that's something I'll bring up in more detail. Alrighty, so in our second half of this PlayStation Network outage rant, we will discuss the further repercussions of the outage, governments getting involved, Sony trying to save face, and the eventual restoration of the PlayStation Network. All that for just a measly price of free on the second half of this episode of Downloadable Content. We'll be back. Welcome back to the second half of this glorious PlayStation rant. Most of us are still here. Ron has been pressed into service, so he'll jump back in when...
The American army has taken him away from us. He'll be back in 4 to 6 weeks.
I've got metal in my leg. I can't be drafted.
Ha ha!
Suck on that, army.
Excellent. Excellent, excellent. We're going to begin the second half. We've been talking about, the initial hacking and a lot of talking about how Sony has really bungled the PR. But one of the issues that we have to address is, well, why were they hacked? Because Sony hasn't reported yet that, Sony still doesn't know who did it. They still have no idea. A lot of people were originally saying it was anonymous, but they have totally denied.
The spokesman for the anonymous group said no.
Said no. So, we had some more information, in the gamer geek culture that it was related to the GeoHots issue.
Yeah, so basically, if you take a step back quite a bit, when the PS3 first came out, it had the ability to install Linux on it. And oddly enough, that meant that a lot of hackery type people just sort of ignored trying to hack the PS3 because they had this ability to install whatever the hell they wanted on it. Then Sony, a few months ago, realized that perhaps that's a bit of a security hole and some bad stuff like piracy could happen through that. So they removed the feature and people sued them, blah, blah, blah. But really, the upshot of it all is removing Linux spurred hackers to start looking at the PS3 seriously. I mean, they'd been doing mod chips and stuff to the Xbox for ages, but they never really attacked the PS3.
Yeah, there was no real reason for it.
Exactly. And this guy called GeoHots, which is his username, his actual name is like Gregory Hots, which is awesome. But so he basically unlocked the code, if you will. He got like the security key that gave you full access to the PS3, and Sony obviously sued him for it.
Yes, his name is George Hots.
George Hots.
And his username was called GeoHot.
Which is awesome.
So, anyway, keep going.
Basically, what that meant, so there was this long period of this lawsuit against this hacker. He left the country and did all sorts of weird, like, rapping rants against Sony online, which you can look up if you want. But they eventually settled. But the upshot of why people believe Sony got hacked is because basically hackers were fine with Sony, and then if you imagine hackers as a bee nest, Sony came along, shoved their penis in the bee's nest, rubbed it in their faces, and then walked off.
Ow.
And so you can imagine what bees do when you get a cock in your face.
Well, it is my understanding, while Danielle goes crazy with that joke, it was my understanding, I mean, I know that he also was known for hacking Apple devices as well. But, it's kind of, I think it is legal now to jailbreak Apple
Yeah, see, so that's the funny thing, is the fact what he did and what he put up tutorials to do was just, it's jailbreaking, like you jail your iPhone. It's just giving you root access. He did not put anything up that allowed you to pirate games. It was other people who then had the ability, if they saw fit to do that after they had access.
Yeah, he wasn't telling you how to pirate games. He was just exploiting, telling you, okay, this is how you break, the code on Sony's system.
Exactly. So the fact that Sony sued him in the first place is ridiculous.
So, because, I mean, and I'm of the opinion that if you legally and, if you buy the system outright, it's yours. You should do whatever the hell you want with it.
And yet there are laws in these countries that say if you buy a DVD, you're not legally allowed to copy it. So,
if you buy something, you should be able to do whatever the hell you want with it. And when America basically said to Apple saying, yeah, there's no problem with people hacking their iPhone so that they can use other wireless carriers, that pissed them off. That pissed Apple off something fierce, because at the time Apple had exclusive rights with AT&T to, you could only use an iPhone on an AT&T network. People didn't want to use AT&T, and so they hacked their phones to be able so that they could use other wireless carriers like T-Mobile or Sprint or whatever they wanted. And when the United States said, yeah, that's perfectly legal. If they legally bought the device, they should do whatever the hell they want with it. That pissed them off, and subsequently it also pissed Sony off.
Yeah.
They went after this kid. He is a kid. He is younger than I am. He's 21, and
That's younger than me. I feel old.
I'm old.
you just turned 22, Ryan. You just...
Shut up.
So yeah, the prevailing theory is that hackers got revenge on Sony because of what they did to this person.
Yeah.
Feel justified now?
Well, the irony in the whole thing is that they're not hurting well, they are. They're hurting Sony's reputation. But really, and especially if they
Sony
got
had a
credit
reputation.
cards, what they're hurting are the customers of Sony. And really, that's not the people the hackers should be attacking.
That's true.
That is the prevailing theory, because Anonymous denied everything. However, the group or person that hacked Sony tried to be clever, because they left some code that tried to pin the blame on Anonymous.
Well, the thing with so they left the tagline that we are Legion.
Yeah.
But the problem with an anonymous group is you're anonymous. There's no organisation in an anonymous group. So their, quote, spokesman for this anonymous group that said it wasn't them can't possibly know what everyone in the group is doing. There could be factions in the group who did do this.
But at this point, we do not know yet. So, we will move on, now that we've discussed what possible reasons they were hacked. As the outage went on, governments were starting to get involved. The United States Congress trying to get involved here with hearings and testimonials and...
Are they really? I don't really know about American law, and I don't claim to be an expert, but are they really the people who should be involved in something like this?
Well, our government
The
can't
government
do
shouldn't be
anything
involved
like-
in anything.
They want to.
Our government should not be involved in anything.
No,
Including government.
Anything.
Especially government.
Especially government.
And yeah, I think the person who really should be running the place is the man in the shack, but that's just me.
So what did Congress actually want? I haven't really heard this part of the story.
Okay, it was a U.S. senator wrote to Sony asking why did Sony take so damn long to tell its users.
So that's the part they were interested in.
Yes. Sony relayed that basically that they said Congress asked, your statement indicated you have no evidence at this time that credit card information was obtained, yet you cannot rule out this possibility. Please explain why you do not believe credit card information was obtained and why you cannot determine if the data was in fact taken.
Because technology is hard.
I mean, really, they did. I mean, it wasn't. It didn't become a big deal. Sony, the Congress just wanted to know, Sony, what gives.
Right.
I want to know how many of them had PSN accounts.
Probably more than they want to admit.
But nothing really came of it. I mean, there was no action taken. Sony did notify the FBI. And so far, the investigation is still ongoing as to why and how and things like that. So
Congress's involvement was just another excuse for them to get away from actual problems.
Yeah. So also, while this whole outage was going on, not content to hack Sony once, they did it again on May 3rd!
Just to prove we could do it again.
May 3rd! They got hacked again! This time it was the Sony Online Entertainment servers.
No one plays those games.
Well, that's DC Universe mostly, and yeah, that went down as
And
well.
EverQuest, isn't it?
What?
I think EverQuest as well, actually.
Yeah, EverQuest is SOE.
So the first attack on the PlayStation Network, they got information from about 75 million PlayStation Network accounts. The hack for the Sony Online Entertainment servers, they added another 25 million to their tally.
But wasn't this an outdated database, I heard? It was like 2007 data.
It was a pretty old database. The database of those 25 million accounts, it only had an additional almost 13,000 credit card numbers. Most of them were non-US card holders.
And probably expired.
Yeah, most of the information was out of date to begin with, so it wasn't quite as severe. But this was just kind of like whoever hacked the first time, this was just another fuck you.
It was out of date in internet years.
This was just kind of like a screw you saying, yeah? Alright. Go on,
We'll do it again.
We're gonna shame you a second time.
Well, and although I don't know the exact details, Sony has been repeatedly attacked since then
Yes!
on like
Yeah,
their foreign
they have.
websites.
This got attacked like yesterday or Saturday or
Like 2 days
Thursday,
ago,
I
they got
thought.
attacked.
They got attacked on June the Sony Pictures website got hacked.
Thursday.
Sony Pictures website got hacked on June 2nd with unencrypted passwords and personal information of Sony customers who entered into Sony promotions.
Now they're
So
just kicking Sony while they're down.
Now and then those hackers took it and posted the information online and also added a statement that basically, which the statement was to the effect of, Sony, you're making this way too easy. And yeah.
You'd have thought after the first PSN attack, some sort of internal memo would have gone around Sony saying, IT guys, if you're not encrypting passwords, now would be a good time to do it.
So they got more information, more personal. They posted it saying, why do you people put so much faith in a company that doesn't even do anything to protect its data?
And most of this data was on Sony's personal staff too, not just the customers.
Yes. So this just gets better and better by the second here.
I heard that they were posting it because they couldn't actually save the information, that it would have taken them weeks.
Oh.
But they were posting it just to prove that they had that they could do it again.
Yeah, so Sony and Ryan said it best. They're just now kicking Sony while they're down. It's just
Below the belt while they're down.
Yeah, essentially, that's what they're doing.
It doesn't like being a dead horse.
Yeah.
So finally, Sony decides, how the hell are we going to make this up to our customers?
Free shit.
Free shit indeed.
Free shit that can't be accessed.
Oh,
Now it
yeah.
So
could-
they
Announced it.
decided that they were going to begin a partial restoration of the PlayStation Network, going on a country-by-country basis. I don't know when the network actually came back to the UK, but it came back to the US on May 15th.
It was probably about half a day later, I think.
With the full restoration completed between June 1st and 2nd.
It was like 2 weeks, at least 2 more weeks before it went back online in Japan. I know that.
Yeah, so with much fanfare, Sony trotted out the Welcome Back program, in which, again, I don't know if the details were different for its UK customers, but for the US it was a 30-day free membership to PlayStation Plus.
A quality service.
Sites like places like Hulu, who had paid subscribers, they're being reimbursed for the lost time. And for PlayStation 3 owners, I'll get to PSP in a second. For PlayStation 3 owners, they were going to give you 2 free games from this pool of 5, and the 5 games are Wipeout HD, Little Big Planet, Infamous, Dead Nation, and Super Stardust HD, of which I've only heard of 2 of those games.
I know what 2 games I'm going to get.
The people end up picking.
And those are the 2 I'm going to get.
So, quite notably, these are old games.
Very old games.
I think it
They're like
pisses a
4
lot of
years
people
old,
off because
Wipeout HD was a launch title. Infamous came out 2008, 2009, I want to say.
Around that time.
And so what pisses a lot of people off is the people who are truly affected by the PSN outage were Sony's biggest fans, the people who probably bought all these games.
Yep.
So
Essentially, yeah.
what sort of welcome back is that?
It's Sony putting their dick back into the beehive, saying,
Saying, fuck you, loyal fans.
"We're gonna."
I also found it quite hilarious when I went on the PS Store this morning that they're offering the video section is offering you some free movies this weekend on us. And so let me just get you ready for this, guys. And I don't know if you're going to be excited about this or not. I was, personally. But you can watch, for free, Final Fantasy, The Spirits Within, Resident Evil, Degeneration, and House of the Dead 2. I don't know about you guys, but I know
Nice.
where my weekend is going to be.
On our end, at least on the PSP, we did get Final Fantasy, The Spirits Within, Ghostbusters, and Bad Boys.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I feel so lucky. Michael Bay.
I know for PSP, the choice of games were as follows: Little Big Planet PSP, Mod Nation Racers PSP, Pursuit Force, and Killzone Liberation. So,
Woohoo.
ooh, hot titles.
Yeah.
My God.
And so from both these lists, if you have a PS3, you can choose 2 games from each.
Yeah, and really, hot ticket games. Ugh.
Should we also point out that the 30 days free membership of PSN Plus is a complete rip-off? Because the way PSN Plus works is you get discounts on some games and you get some free games, but the free games you can only keep while you continue to pay for PSN Plus.
I didn't know
What?
that. I'm not a PS.
That is such bull crap.
I'm not.
Exactly.
I'm not
so
a.
if you get one of the discount games, which means paying them more money, you can keep those games. The free games stop working the moment you stop paying for PSN Plus, which for most people will be after this 30 days.
That is so retarded.
I didn't know that, Josh. I'm not a PlayStation Plus subscriber. I didn't know that.
Me neither, but I am for 30 days.
That's really retarded.
And there's honestly not very much on there that's interesting. I've looked at it and I can't find anything worth downloading.
Yeah, so nice welcome back program by Sony. Not only are they going to...
Not only that, Brian, but a lot of people, including myself, are having problems even downloading the second game.
So
whenever we go back to the store, it keeps saying no content found.
yes, so I had a problem yesterday where I managed to download the first game, or trigger the download, and then when I tried to go for the second one, I got spammed with errors. And when I backed out, the option to get my free games disappeared.
Haha, nice.
But the solution to that I found out on a website is from the XMB. If you go to account management, transaction management, service list, and promotions, you can find the game. But you will get a ton of errors, and you'll have to keep trying to get it to work.
Yeah, and I found that only works if I'm actually on the PSP doing it, but I have the Media Go thing on my computer because I can't save all that stuff onto my memory card. It's not large enough.
Right.
So when I try to access the store through the actual the PC, it's not there. It won't even let you. And if you try to do the account management, it sends you to a website for the PlayStation Network that says that it's under construction, or is it under?
So a solution to that, I haven't tested this obviously, might be if you do it on the PS3 and say you want this game, it will add that to your account, then cancel the download, and hopefully it will be available on your PC.
Yeah, I don't have a PS3.
That's alright, I mean on the PSP.
I tried adding it to the cart and trying to go back into the store, and it didn't work either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quality software, Sony.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be too bitchy about it because yeah, it's a free game, but god damn it, I was minorly inconvenienced.
Yes, exactly.
Oh no. Oh no, not that. I just, you know, a lot of these games most people have already, so I just kind of feel that Sony's just kind of, you know, slapping you in the face again.
Yeah.
You know, for a month and a half's worth of
Oh no, they're not just slapping us. They're straight up dick smacking us.
However, if you're not a PS Plus subscriber, you aren't paying for the service. So
yeah.
I don't know how much they. If they had lost credit cards, I'd be like wanting a check in the mail. But
That's true.
Yeah.
They are offering fraud protection and stuff, and
That's right, I forgot about that.
so I guess considering you're not paying for it, it's not the worst still in the world, but it is still a shit list of games.
Yeah.
Although Little Big Planet does have Stephen Fry in it, so that's a plus. So
Yeah, but I played that 2 years ago.
yes, it's considered ancient now in gaming land. So, be that as it may, now that the PlayStation Store and the network is fully back, we're fully back up and running until the next asshole comes along and hacks it.
Again.
Brings us to some question here. So, what have we learned, boys and girls?
Separate
Nothing.
passwords
Absolutely.
and prepaid cards.
I think prepaid cards are going to be the common thread.
Basically, don't trust people with your shit. I've got a friend at uni who was quite happy about the whole thing because whenever he signs up for a website or a service, he gives them fake information.
Awesome.
And it works?
Well, yeah, because do they really need to know your mother's maiden name and your real name? I mean, he buys prepaid cards, so they never have to really know who you are. I think tinfoil hats is the way to go.
I like this guy's thinking.
So yeah, it's like, what's your name? Big, McLarge, Huge. And,
Exactly. So this didn't affect him at all. They got some personal data. It wasn't relevant.
What is your mother's maiden name? Thick McRunfast.
You should. Those security questions, by the way, you should never answer legitimately. Like, if the question is where was your school when you grew up, you should answer like Big Mac. it should be thank you remember, but that people can't use if they find it out.
Right. Where were you, what is your father's middle name? Gallifrey.
Exactly.
One of the under that logic, one day I should, sign up for one of these services and with the name the doctor. I've got my psychic paper. But I think what we have learned on a more serious note is that don't give Sony your information. I mean, obviously, and with these news reports of repeated hacking. We had the PlayStation Network, the Sony Online Entertainment, and now, just a few days ago, Sony Pictures. Really, if this doesn't scream at you, don't give Sony your information, I don't know what will.
But it should extend to everybody. After this,
True.
I'm not going to give Xbox my next credit card. I think you should just be much more skeptical when websites and services ask you for all this information.
I agree. I mean, don't they sell Xbox Live subscriptions through prepaid cards?
They do.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
They do. They do the same thing that Sony does, and like Wii Points also.
Okay.
And a lot of these companies screw you over if you use a card anyway, because they'll say, well, this product is £2.50, but you've got to give us £5. We'll hold on to that £2.50 so you can spend it later. So you may as well buy the prepaid card.
Yeah, I mean, and usually when I buy Wii Points, I usually buy the card. Although with Nintendo...
well, see, Nintendo is brilliant, and I love them for this, because they make you enter your card details every time.
Every time,
Which
yes.
means
Every
they're
time,
not
yes.
storing
Every
it.
time. I heart
So
Nintendo.
suddenly, they're my friends.
Yes, and I mentioned this to a friend early on during the outage. I said, this is why, if you're going to add PSN dollars to your account, they should do what Nintendo does, because Nintendo asks you for your card information every single time you purchase Wii Points. And you know how annoying it is to have to keep writing out Schenectady every single time?
I do.
I want to buy Wii Points because they ask you for what the number is and the security code and the expiration date, your name,
and you're writing it on a keyboard on the screen with a Wiimote. It's not like you've got a keyboard.
Yeah, so there's time involved here, man, and then because we're here in the U.S., they ask you what county you live in so they can level the proper amount of sales tax, and it's just like, oh my god, and it becomes like, you know what? I'll just buy the card and punch in the numbers to redeem it on the system. There, done. But yeah, that's really sounding...
But is anyone... How many people do you think are actually going to boycott Sony because of it?
I don't think so. Maybe a small few crazies, but...
A lot of crazies. This is America we're talking about.
Yeah, but Sony doesn't have just an American market.
True. But we're Americans. We're gonna want to fight it because we're stupid.
Because we're American.
Because we're American.
I think we have just about beaten this issue to death. We want to hear...
Due to Kevin Butler.
We want to hear your thoughts on the great PlayStation outage of 2011. Again, you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/downloadable content or at Twitter, DL Content. Love to hear your thoughts. Love to hear how you were personally, deeply affected by this outage. We want to know. Tell us your sob stories.
You never phone.
Suddenly it's...
Grab some cigarettes and never came back.
Suddenly it's the Jew guilt being piled on.
Wait, there's a Jew in here?
No, not a Jew, a Chew.
Oh.
All right, let's put this thing to bed. And I would like to thank Ryan, Ron, Joshi, and Danielle for their contributions to this fun, sophisticated program. And we'll see you next time.
You're welcome.
Have a good one, everybody.